In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to be happy. I know it sounds simple. I'm going to give you a framework that is going to show you why we live in this perpetual cycle of not being happy, not being fulfilled, even not being excited. This was something that I had to work on myself. I'm going to show you the tools, the tactics, and the strategies I learned and now use that helped me. It will help you also, so stay tuned for that. We're going to hop right in. If you're new, my name is Travis Peters. This is the Increase Life. We help Christians access their full potential and become all that God has created them to be. We're going to teach you how to live a life of increase and a life of purpose. I don't want you living poor and broke and average, not doing what God called you to do and just existing. We're going to get you out of all that and into the increased life. If you're new, check out the links in the description below. I've got a download for you, 101 financial scriptures you probably didn't know were in the Bible. I want you to grab that. That's also going to put you on our Increase newsletter. That's going to be bringing you these increase strategies all the time. If you'd like to join our Increase community, we call it the Increase Warrior Program. There's a link in the description for that as well. You'll get coaching, you'll get courses, you'll get curriculum, you get accountability, and an awesome community of like-minded Christians who are just out there learning how to crush it. So anyway, I'd love to hang out with you more. Use those links in the description. Let's get into this for a second here. Now, inside of our Increase Warrior Coaching Program, there was a book that I had recommended. I'd been going through myself, and somebody got that book, and then they found this author's other books and recommended a book back to me. So shout out to Kent right here. But The Gap in the Gain. All right? This is by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He also wrote, he's got a lot of great books. Who Not How was a very helpful book for me. And then 10X is Easier Than 2X was a great mindset shift. That is very powerful stuff here. I want to hit you up with the premise of this book. I still recommend the book. You can get it on Audible or you can get the physical copy. I'll try to put a link in the description if I remember. But it teaches something very simple. And what we do here, often if we get some principles, here's what you have to understand. Success principles are rooted in the Bible. God laid them out there first for his people. Now, there are people in the world who have discovered these principles. They call them something else, and a lot of times don't even know that they are found in the Bible. And I think today's principle is a perfect example of that. The verbiage and how he describes it and uses this principle is very powerful, and it just painted this perfect illustration for me as to what keeps you in that always striving mode. That's not a great way to live. Always striving, no matter what you do, accomplish, or achieve, it never seems like enough. Happiness always eludes you. It's just a little bit further away. Once I get a little bit more, then I'll be happy. Once I make a little bit more money, make a little bit more sales, hit this goal, hit that goal. But guess what happens, guys? You know the answer. It doesn't really work, does it? And there's a reason why. For those of us who are driven by progress, very ambitious, highly motivated, there's this elusive goal that we have in our mind, this ideal. It'll be ideal when. Here's what I want things to look like when I'm making this much money, when I have this much in savings. That's a big one, right? Well, what keeps happening is when I get this promotion, when I get this raise, have you ever noticed that when you go and get those things, you don't actually feel the feeling you thought you were going to feel? I know that's happened to me many times. I've hit a goal, hit a number, made an amount of money, got a raise, got a promotion, whatever it is, and the feeling I thought I was going to get, I didn't get. It's why so many people teach about how money can't buy you happiness, because it cannot. There are people who've experienced this, they got the money they wanted, and then weren't happy or fulfilled. It's the same arena as to why rich and famous people become depressed, addicted to drugs, and often commit suicide. It's because they live in this cycle I'm about to show you. Okay, and I got this verbiage and this illustration from the book, The Gap in the Gain. So let's dive in. let's hop over to my little whiteboard here. I want to show you something. So here's where you are, right? And you know what? Let me draw that a little bit bigger for you guys. Here's us. And what we do is we have an ideal. This is where we want to go. This is the amount of money you want to make. This is the next gig you want to get, the raise, the promotion, the job, the whatever. This is where you want to go. And typically, I think for most people, they usually use like a money goal or something like that. And it can be anything, but we'll talk money. Now, there's another marker in your life that maybe you haven't considered. Where you started from. Now, what nearly all of us do is we dream and we think about this ideal. A big problem for me as well was looking at what other people were making financially. And that can be this ideal too. You go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, whatever it is, you're talking to a friend and they're making 300 grand a year. Maybe they're making 300 grand a month. Whatever it is, there's this ideal. And what we keep doing is we keep thinking about this gap. The gap between where you are and where you want to be. Gap focused. Gap minded. And this is how most of us live. We live gap-minded. Isn't this interesting? I want you just to stop for a second and think on this. Where and how are you doing this? And if it's financially, great. Be aware of it though. Again, this is something I had to do for myself. I realized I was doing this. I was very gap-minded. Think on that for a minute. I'm going to read you an excerpt from the book. All right, this is from Dan Sullivan, and he says this: your future growth and progress are now based in your understanding about the difference between the two ways in which you can measure yourself. All right, measuring yourself. You can measure yourself against an ideal, which I call the gap, or you can measure yourself against the starting point, which puts you in the gain, appreciating all you've accomplished. So listen to this. He blames Thomas Jefferson because he's the one who wrote Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. And he says what that did to our culture was make us think that we have not obtained happiness now, and that we're always in the pursuit of it. Thomas Jefferson also was a person who perpetually lived in the gap and also suffered from depression, and he was down a lot, and he wasn't always super happy. He actually lived kind of bummed out. And he tells this story of how Thomas Jefferson was heartbroken, he was in love, he kept thinking like, once I get this girl, then I'm gonna be happy. That was his ideal. But she broke his heart, and it put him in this state of like, man, I don't know if God actually wants us to be happy, but he likes us to pursue the happiness, which is incorrect, which is not biblical, which is unscriptural. But it's why he wrote The Pursuit of Happiness into our historical country's documents. But that's incorrect, because we can be happy now. How do we do that? Well, what he talks about in the book is instead of measuring yourselves in this gap and being gap-minded, to focus on the gain. And to be gain-minded from here to here. Here's what happens when you do that. When we are, let me hit you with this first. When we're gap-minded, all you're doing is measuring yourself from where you are with what you don't have. So all you do is you think, I should be making more money. What's wrong with me? Why can't I? Why is so-and-so making so much? I'm smarter than them. I've been in the game longer. How about this one? I'm a better Christian than them. Why are they making more than me? Okay, listen. This is what happens when we are gap-minded. What are all these things? All of these things are going to put you in a negative state. They are all about what you don't have. They're lack-minded, scarcity-minded. All of this, guys, is the opposite of faith. If you dwell and meditate on the gap and on these things, the devil's going to have a heyday with you because it's all a downward spiral into one of Satan's favorite places to get you, into a state of hopelessness. He wants you in a state of down. He wants you to be negative, cynical, jaded, and ultimately depressed, because depression leads to worse than that. You can use your imagination. That's what happens when we are gap-minded. Now I'm going to let you in on one more little secret as to why this is a bad idea. Okay? There's a thing he talks about in the book called the hedonic treadmill. For high achievers, for high performers, for those of us who are highly motivated and driven, us ambitious Christians, here's what we do. We set a goal, and we'll say it's financial. It could be YouTube subscribers, podcast listeners, people on your email list, people who come to your ministry or your church, or finances or income or revenue or clients, whatever. You're gonna set a goal. And what we do is we go and, like I said, we're driven. So we're going to go pursue it. That's pretty good. We're running after the goal there. Okay? Here's the bummer. Here's why this doesn't work. Is because as soon as you hit the goal, okay, you've achieved the goal, guess what you do? You move the goal. The goal keeps moving, and you keep chasing. And the goal keeps getting further, and so does the gap. Basically, we do this thing where the gap never, ever closes. That is painful because you keep thinking happiness is at the goal. But you can't reach the goal because the goal keeps moving and you're perpetually in the gap. It tells a great story in the book about a guy who wanted a certain amount of money in his investment accounts in order to feel comfortable. All right? I might butcher the numbers, but here's the gist. He originally wanted $5 million into his retirement accounts. That's more than enough for him to, live well, live comfortably, retire well, and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Well, he hired a investment firm to manage his money, wealth management company. And he's like, here's my goal. They gave him a plan. He begins to work on the plan. And as he gets close to having the $5 million saved up, they let it, they're like, hey, you're crushing it, doing great. You're almost at the goal. He comes back. He's like, man, you know what? Like, I just don't know if that's enough. According to the news, they're saying like the economy's getting worse and there's so much uncertainty and all these things. I think we need to be at $8 million. And so the firm's like, okay, well, let's restructure a plan. And here we go. And after a few years, they did some things and he gets to the 8 million. As soon as he gets to 8 million, the firm lets him know and he comes back and says, man, I've been watching the news, and this is over years and years and years. Been watching the news, and they've been talking about the economy, and they're talking about how things are getting worse before they're going to get better, and this and that, and the new president, and all these different things. He's like, I really think we need to be at $15 million. And the company's like, okay, let's keep plugging along, come up with a new game plan. They're working together. Again, this is over a decade, 15 years, something like that. This is over a long period of time. This company has helped him hit every financial goal that he has set. So what is he doing? He's setting an ideal, coming up with a plan, and he's actually hitting it. But every time he does, because he's gap-minded, and he said this, because he feeds on gap media. He feeds on gap media. I think that's a key phrase. Okay, do you understand what that means? You thinking about gap media? It's on TV, yes, but it's also on your YouTube, it's also on your Instagram, it's also on your Facebook, it's also on your Twitter, it's also on X, all right? Feeds on your gap media. It's on TikTok. Over time, this guy gets so paranoid and so fear-based and so gap-minded that he decides to pull out all of his money in cash. He takes his money and hides it. What's very interesting is he pulled it out at just the time when the market skyrocketed. And the company noted had he would have left it in there for something like 2 more years, something really short, it would have doubled. So he would have gone from 15 million in his accounts to 30 million. His original goal was 5. He literally said at 5 million, it's all I could ever spend. I'd be happy and do all the things I want in life. He pulled it out in cash because he's feeding on gap media. He would have doubled his money if he would have left it in. Fear-based, ideals, negative, down, cynical, jaded, depressed. The book later goes on to allude to, I think the guy ended up doing something drastic with his own life because of being gap-minded. And the book talks about, this book is written to those who are highly driven and motivated. A lot of entrepreneurs do this thing on the hedonic treadmill, meaning you can never reach the goal because the goal always moves. The problem is we attach these emotions thinking that happiness, and really what we're thinking is fulfillment, will be found in those goals. Back to what I was saying about famous actors and actresses and celebrities and athletes, right? There's so many cases where they believe becoming an A-list actor, making $20 million, becoming a national or a worldwide celebrity will give them this feeling. But then they get there and it doesn't. They're unfulfilled. They can't see a way out. What's the point? This is hopeless. So they do something crazy. All right? So what do? What's the solution? All right? Because I feel like this, I'm hoping this is resonating with you guys, because it resonated with me when I was reading this the first time. I was like, oh my goodness, I see it. I've been so gap-minded. I mean, I've done online classes and seminars where I was thrilled with the results. We pulled people into our programs and we were able to help them and get results. And then I'd look at somebody else's group or program and say, well, why do they have more than me? Oh wait, they charge more money than me. How come they've got that? And I'd go from happy to sad in an instant, because I would instantly become gap-minded. So here's what we're going to do. Me and you, are going to become gain-minded. We focus on the gains. That's what we do, and we are developing in this and reprogramming ourselves to focus on the gains. The gain is found by looking at where you started from, where you came from. Look at this for a minute. Perhaps you don't feel like you're very far along in life. It is because you are currently focused on the gap where you'd want to be. Let's go back and let's see where we started from. Well, even if you just look back 1 year, so a great exercise to do. Pull out your phone from the January of the previous year and start looking through your photos. Start seeing all the things you did. Hey, look at that. I forgot about that vacation. Oh yeah. And look, one of my kids got baptized. Wait a minute. My kids are getting baptized when they're 7? I didn't get baptized till I was 21. I didn't even grow up in church. We were raising godly kids. It was her decision. This is awesome. What is it? That's a gain. Boom. Focus on that gain. All right. What else? Let's get some green check marks going. Hey, you actually started the business. You've been thinking about the business for 8 years, and you actually started it. Yeah, it hasn't made that much money yet, but it's off the ground. Man, your parents never did that. Hey, wait a minute. My house is off. This is a nice house. Yeah, there's other houses, and there's bigger houses. There's mansions and land and stuff. I want more yard. I want some stuff in the house. But look at this one. This one's phenomenal. Thank you, God. Man, we're in an amazing house. This is great. It's full of love. It's full of peace. Hey, and we got to volunteer, and maybe even you got to speak at your church. They asked you to speak at your church. Yeah, it wasn't in front of 1,000 people. It was only in front of 30. But they asked you to lead that small group maybe. Man, that's awesome. Dude, this is okay. That's pretty cool. Hey, you joined that coaching program and you started reading your Bible more than ever and developing in the things of God. And that produced a new level of faith and confidence. And you finally discovered your purpose. Hint, hint. That's awesome. I now know what I'm born to do. I have more confidence than ever. Man, maybe you used to lose sleep. Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you used to lose sleep over money. But now you've developed in your faith and you found the promises of God and how to activate them. And man, I don't worry about money like I used to. That's a win. Oh, also, we put our kids in a new school and they're absolutely thriving. They're struggling before, now their grades are through the roof. Oh man, and that was so cool. And then, man, you know what? My relationship with my brother, we're hanging out more than we've ever hung out, and it's just so fun. I've really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, and there's new friends we've been hanging out with. That's been awesome too. Wow. And you see what I'm doing? I'm role playing, but listen, do this for yourself. Let's go make a list of the gains. And when you start to do that, yeah, you're not debt free yet, but man, we actually paid off a good chunk last year or even earlier this year. And hey, I'm not down to my weight loss goal where I want to be yet, but I'm down a couple pounds. I've kind of got the plan figured out that I like. Okay, that's pretty cool. I've kind of found a really cool routine of praying in the morning and spending time with God and getting my marching orders before I go out for the day. That's been awesome. I do feel closer to Him than ever. And hey, maybe you started tithing at your church. Man, the windows of heaven are open now and stuff's starting to pop in your life a little bit here. Okay, all right. You see what I'm saying? There's so many gains. The gains are more than the gap. They're more powerful than gap. There's more there than there is in the gap. We have to decide that that's going to be our focus. We are going to focus on our gains. Having this terminology is great because anytime I start to feel down, discouraged, and that's really what gap-minded does, is it makes you discouraged. When you feel discouraged, just stop and say, I'm in the gap. I got to get in the game. God, I thank you for what you've done. Lord, I thank you from how far we've come. I thank you that I used to be a crazy, cussing sinner, and now you flip things in my life. Oh man, we used to be broke, and it used to be hard. And yeah, we're not where we want to be yet, but man, at least we're not struggling like we used to be. Man, I haven't lost all the weight yet, but I'm on the path. I haven't arrived yet, but at least we've left. Check mark, check mark, check mark. Look at our kids. Look at our relationship. Man, wife and I have been going on more dates than ever, and we feel closer than ever, and it's more fun than ever, and more intimate than ever. Let's go. Check mark, check mark. Look at all these gains. Oh man, remember that trip that we took? That was awesome. Oh yeah, and you met that one guy, and you gave him some money, and you got to pray for him. Now he's going to heaven. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Gains, 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 gains. See how powerful this is? When you focus on the gains, what it does is it changes your state. It puts you in a place of gratefulness, of thankfulness. This matters on a lot of levels. The Bible says that we enter God's courts with praise and thanksgiving. I remember, I've made a video on this, during praise and worship at my church. Honestly, God downloads a lot of ideas to me during praise and worship. I hear His voice so clearly. And I asked Him about it one time. How come I hear your voice so clearly during worship? And He just said, because you've entered my gates. Someone at our church calls it's the gate code to get in, right? Praise and worship. So what happens is puts you in a state of gratefulness, of praising God. You're focused on Him. And this is how we take these worldly, so to speak, secular teachings, and we bring them back to the gospel, which is where they came from in the first place. That's all this is doing. Focusing on what you have, focusing on what you're grateful for, thankful for, thanking God. Thinking on things that are pure and lovely and noble. Philippians 4:8 tells you what to think on. It's these things. And when you do that, man, we enter God's courts. We enter His presence just a little bit stronger. We can hear from Him a little bit more clearly. And when you're in this state of gratefulness and thankfulness, man, now those ideas flow. Your next steps, you can hear it a little more clearly. That clarity is there. When you're in the gap, you're discouraged, down, deflated, and jaded. It's hard to pray from that state because you're not really in a great place to receive. You're worrying your prayers to Him. James 1:5 in the Message translation says, don't do that. Worrying your prayers won't get you anything from God. We must pray in faith. Ask in faith, believing He'll answer you. When you do that, He'll give you everything you ask, including wisdom, including strategy, provision, finances, whatever. Get yourself in this place. Let's focus on the gains. So this is a super practical thing you can do. You can talk to your kids about this. You can talk to your spouse about this. Hey, here's how it works. Go grab yourself a whiteboard, grab yourself a piece of paper, and draw what I drew. Draw this out for your family. Because what you're going to do is, as a family, you're going to stay gain-minded. And they're going to call you out. Hey, Dad, you're being in the gap. Talk to your kids. Hey, you guys are being in the gap right now. You need to get over in the gain. In the book, it talks about how he was parenting his kid and he realized that he had an ideal for one of his particular kids on grades and how they should act and behave and the grades they should make, etc. And so he realized with his kid, the way he was parenting was it was all gap-minded. It was all like, yeah, but you got a C on the test. Yeah, but you didn't do this very good. Yeah, but you missed this spelling word and you should have got that one right. And he realized I was just so gap-minded while I was parenting my kid. I'm like, that's not a great, loving father. And then he realized I need to bring the gain into this. Look how far he's come. He's basically a new kid since the last 2 years. Man, we put him with that tutor and he has gone from making the D's, he was flunking, and now he's making C pluses and B minuses. Let's go, baby. Man, he used to have this issue and now look how far he's come. And then he used to struggle in public, but now he's got tons of friends. And gains, looking at the gains, focus on the gains. Man, do it in your marriage. Oh man, my spouse always does this and he never does that. She never does this. Whatever. Stop focusing on the gap. Let's go over to the gains. Yeah, but when we first got married, it was horrible. And now look where we're at. Hey, we used to barely talk and now we at least talk. We at least do date nights once a month. I want to get to once a week, but we're at least at once a month. That's good. And then he used to just plop down on the couch and never tell me anything going on in his life. At least now we talk at dinner. We talk twice a week. I know, whatever. But focus on the gains. Do it in your finances. Do it, first off, with God. Then finances. And then look at your family. Look at your marriage. Look at your kids. Look at your job, your career, your business. Gains, gains, gains. Stack those gains. Okay? Stack the gains. That's your homework. You're going to stack the gains. That's going to put you in a state of gratefulness, a state of thankfulness. It's going to build your confidence. It's going to get you in a place where you were up, where you were excited, where you are happy. I have done this myself, and I'm continually working on this. The more I do it, I'm telling you guys, have you ever had a thought? Have you ever been in a great mood, having a great day, and you have one thought and you get sad? One thought. And I can almost guarantee you that thought is a thought at the gap. Maybe it's a comparison. I'm telling you, I've recognized it. I've been thrilled about an outcome in my life, and then one thought makes me bummed. I hear about one thing that somebody else did better or achieved faster, instantly bummed. Or I remember, man, last time I ran this web class, more people joined my program. Why didn't they join this time? Bummed. I was thrilled 10 seconds ago. Get a gap thought, it'll bring you down. Enemy loves that. All right? He operates in the gap. Comparison is a thief of joy. Comparing where you are, measuring yourself from where you are to where you want to be, dangerous. Down. Now, go back to the gains. Where'd you come from? Yeah, but look where I was. Look how far we've come. Look at what we have accomplished. Look at this. Even if they're small, that's fine. Stack them. Stack those gains. Now you can be in a place of excitement and faith. You're up. You're positive. You're hopeful. Now let's go attack our goals. Let's go in that state and let's go get after our goals. That's how you win in this life. That's how you make progress in this life. That's how you get happy in this life. So in the same way that you can be gap-minded and get sad like that, what's great is you can actually get happy with one thought as well. You can think yourself into it by thinking on these things that Paul lines out in Philippians 4:8. You can get happy by thinking on your gains. Thank you, God, remembering what God has done. There's lots of scriptures where it says, just remember your God. Deuteronomy 8:18. I'm your God. I've given you power to get wealth, to establish the covenant I made with your ancestors. But right before that, it says, hey, just don't forget it was me. Just remember the Lord your God. Remember what he's done. Remember that he's taken you out of Egypt, taking you at this. It says that if you go back through Deuteronomy in the earlier chapters 6, 7, and 8, it talks about, hey, just remember, when all this amazing prosperity happens in your life, just remember God took you out of Egypt. God got you out of slavery. He got you out of the bondage. He got you out of that horrible spot. He turned things around for you. Look how far you've come. Give God the credit. Stay in the game. Stay in the positive. Stay hopeful. Don't focus on the gap. So that's your homework. I'm telling you, it works quick and it's powerful. And if you can start your day with this and you can go back to it during the day and recognize, oh, I'm getting in the gap. Your kids are going to call you out. Hey, Dad, you're getting in the gap. Hey, Mom, you're getting in the gap. And then when you're parenting, you're like, oh man, I'm gap focused on my kid. I need to go gain focused. Now I can show up as a better parent. Love you guys. Apply this today. Go teach this to your family. Go teach this to somebody today. All right. If you want to keep hanging out with us, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. I got new videos and trainings coming out all the time. I also go live. We have YouTube Shorts. We're on all the socials. We're on the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Facebooks. Just look up Travis Peters. And come hang out with us. We also have the Increase Warrior Coaching Program. All the things you need to know are in the description below. We'd love to hang out with you, help you dial this stuff in, keep you in the rails. We want to help you win. I love you guys. See you in the next one.